And 3, 2, 1.
घूसखोर, बीजों की काला बाजारी करे तू, किसानों को लूटे तेरो विधायक और सस्पेंड करेगा मोए।
रामबीर जबान न लड़ा।
जबान न लगा सकते हो, चप्पल तो लगा सकते हो।
चौहान पे पहली बार किसी ने चप्पल उठाई है?
ले, दूसरी बार भी मार रही।
Welcome to another edition of Indian Cine-Maniacs. What is going on, Maniacs?
Yo, yo, yo.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Hello, Ralph.
Hello. John is in sunny Colorado. That's why he's wearing sunglasses. I guess.
No. I'm wearing sunglasses because it seems to be the thing to do on this show.
I love that we have all followers and no leaders on this crew. That's good.
Well, when you are the showrunner,
I am the showrunner.
you can pretty much.
All right. So, John, why don't you explain what we're doing? This is the 12th fail, but it's kind of off our. We did this one first for a reason. So, what's the story?
Okay, so this is the first film off the 10-ish-minute reviews that I did. I tabulated what I thought everyone would want to watch because whenever I do these 10-ish-minute reviews, viewers always say, "Well, this is a movie we'd like everybody to see."
Wait. You do your own thing too?
I do.
Oh, I have to check that out. I had no idea.
Well, that was good because I didn't have to watch this movie. I just watched his review. Since he gives the whole thing away in his reviews.
There's like three. Oh, jealousy's rearing its ugly head once again. I've got about 3 or 4 videos you guys can watch on that show. And the reason why the 12th fail wasn't on the wheel because out of all the films I've watched recently, I thought this was the one that you guys would really, really like. I could be wrong on that, but I'm just telling you what I thought when I chose it. It's also a pretty current film. It's 2023. And you know, we've still got a few more movies on the wheel, and after this, we'll spin and pick another one.
Right.
There's 4 left.
But this
and it wasn't too long.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't too long. So that's what we're doing. So this is the review of the 12th fail.
Now, is this a viewer pick this one, or is this just you pick this to get us rolling?
I got this suggested by a lot of people to watch, and that's why I ended up watching it. And after seeing it, and then we started talking about what we were going to do, I said this would be a perfect movie for it. And it also it's current enough that a lot of people are interested in what we think about it.
Well, and your review already spoiled it, so we can spoil it, right?
Yeah, you can definitely spoil it. Okay. And I got a lot of. I mean, I almost got 5,000 views on it, so a lot of people saw it. So. Yeah, you can spoil it. Yeah, so it's good. So
okay, all right. Well, go ahead. Give us a little recap.
Okay, so this film is about a young guy who was brought up in poverty, and it's his journey to take this exam to become an officer. And it's a really, and in fact, I've heard this from a lot of commenters from India, how difficult this exam is. And it's challenge after challenge that's thrown at this kid and how he overcomes it. And it was one of these films for me. First of all, the lead actor, Vikrant Massey, when I saw this, I hadn't seen him in it. And then after watching this, we saw Death and Gunj, and he was the lead in that. And then I watched Mirzapur, which was a Indian series, and he was in the first season. And he was fantastic. And I just watched another film that he was in, but it was 2000. I think it was 2016 before this film, and he had a small role. I just find this actor very appealing, and I think in this film, I think this was what I've seen. This was his best performance because I thought he was amazing, and I thought it was. You know, most Hindi films are over the top and they're not always grounded in reality like a Malayalam film. This one was grounded, and I even thought the dialogue was more grounded, you know, when they spoke to each other. And I will tell you that, and I told Ralph this when I first saw it, the end of the movie is very emotional. And you know, Ralph says, you know, I got a little misty. I got misty in this film, but it was for the good reasons, not bad reasons. The ending of this film is really uplifting, and after everything this guy's gone through, it's really uplifting. It's based on a book. It's based on a true story. some of the things that happen, like when he first comes to Delhi, I think, he gets all his luggage stolen. That happened to the director of this film. That's why that was in. And I watched if someone recommended this, watch a YouTube video of the director as he explains the film. Because after I saw it, I go, okay, this is about perseverance. This is about sticking to your guns and overcoming odds. And the director said, no, this is about all the temptation to cheat and not cheating. That's what he said this film is really about. And that's a central part of this film. How he ends up going down the path is
That guy will never survive in Hollywood.
that could be. But in his job, because that plays into the last scene during the interview when it looks like there's no way he's going to get the job because there's somebody biased against him because it's where he's from. And when he comes back in the room, more relaxed, more confident because he's going to go in and tell the truth. And that's what turned it around for him. And you know, that's the gist of it. But I'm really curious to know what you guys thought. I love this movie. I gave it 5 Ladoos because now I do story, I do music, I do acting. I thought the acting was decent. I thought he was wonderful. I just thought his performance was so good in this because you see him getting beat down, but he's still going after it because he's got the goal in mind. And again, that last scene when she reads his name off that list and he like realizes he made it. He goes down on his knee. It was just, I just love this film. So I'm dying to hear what you guys think about it. One other thing, I did a 10ish-Minute review on this, obviously. I'm going to put that in the comment section.
It was 17 minutes.
So, well,
that's the ish.
That's why it's 10ish. I'm going to put it below so you can. There's a
all right, I'll get the ball rolling. Ball rolling. I was predisposed to hate this film because it's a long Indian film, and I knew it was going to be overly sappy. Having said that, I actually really enjoyed the film. Notwithstanding, there's a couple of weird. So first of all, I really think there must be a huge corruption problem in India because all these movies that we watch, there's one about the lawyer, which was more supernatural, but still it was about a lawyer who didn't want to lie and was constantly bumping into corruption.
Right.
I mean, this kid's arc, you know, starting as a cheater in high school because the teachers let him cheat because they don't care about these people from this town because it's like they're going to be the sweepers and the lowly workers, the caste system.
Right.
They keep these kids buried. This is the one kid who decided because of the meeting he had with that deputy who we saw come in, which is a good change for him. Obviously, it's super sappy and overly dramatic, which all these are. But his acting, particularly the scenes he had with his mother and his father, where he's when he comes back and he's felt like he's failed or he has failed. He blew a lot of the tests. Those scenes were very, very touching, especially with his mother. That one scene he has with his mother in their little house that she lived in, and he's on the floor, and she's just rubbing his head with the oil, trying to tell him everything's going to be okay, and he just turns and goes, "I know it's not okay," and he has that breakdown.
I know you're lying. Stop lying.
Yeah, really, really effective. The thing that caught me a little off guard was his friend that he meets after he gets his luggage stolen. Because his friend is
the narrator, you mean?
His friend is doing the narration, which is what was driving me a little bit like, okay, so we know it's him doing the narration. We see him doing terrible things in the film, but we know he's going to be in the end. We know he's going to be his friend in the end because he's narrating and telling us this wonderful story. So that I didn't really think they needed that narration to do all that, to just over-explain what's going on. And his friend, obviously was kind of a jerk throughout the film, but ultimately in the end, he's there. I love the scenes with the guy they used as their guru, the guy who didn't pass every time and just wanted one of these guys to go through. I found that very effective. And you're right, the ending, as much as I didn't want to give into it, I knew he was gonna pass everything, and he has to. The two endings that got me is, you're right, her look when she sees his name on the thing and she looks at him and she's crying. He drops to his knees. Fantastic. But then when he meets the guy, the police officer who started him on this run, and the guy salutes him and finally recognizes who he is and has that beautiful, wonderful reaction. I mean, now at that point, you're just, okay, I totally give into this film. and thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, it's long, and like I said, it's overly sappy. There's things that happen all the time in these films, but you were right. It was grounded in some kind of reality, at least. Like even his little place he had to live in, where he's making the flour and studying, and all the studying he's doing throughout the film. And you realize, you're right, those tests look super hard. Those essay questions are ridiculous.
Tourism, terrorism.
Well, that, but when you realize some of the answers they have to, answer, I would never be able to pass that thing. So I thought it was just wonderful. Good film. That's my 2 cents.
Well, I'll jump in since, I'm here, and I guess that's one of the things I'm supposed to do.
Did you watch the movie?
Yes, I watched the movie.
Okay, then go for it.
And I like a film that I could watch in 2 sittings instead of 4. So I will say, because we have the grandkids here, it's sometimes difficult to watch a Indian film with subtitles unless it's very late.
Or do a podcast.
Or they would never show up while I'm podcasting.
Oh, never.
Yeah. So,
meanwhile, back to the film.
Yeah. So obviously, this is not the Three Idiots was a film where someone kills themselves because of stress from passing, and we've had other films as well about the extraordinary stress that Indian people find themselves in to succeed. And one of the reasons I found this very interesting is because I have been reading Indian stories, like Hindustani Times and things like that, as a result of doing this podcast. And I just read a story about civil service and how in India they have like more college educated people now than they know what to do with. And it's like the lowest civil servant job, like the equivalent of like dog catcher, will have people with like, bachelor's degrees and master's degrees just vying for it just to get into civil service. So it was interesting reading that story, about this desperation for people to get a nice government job, and then seeing this film about, they made these guys jump through some hoops, What did they start out with, like 2,000, and they're going to take 20, or more, and you can do it 4 times and 6 times if you're in a caste that was prejudiced against. And all, it was interesting that they have that sort of like affirmative action over there, But
ultimately, it's someone in a room that's going to decide your fate. I mean, that's sort of what that last scene, that interview scene, and that prejudice all bubbles to the top.
And that one guy who was I love the guru guy. They bring him over, and he is, his room is crowded with people because he's been through the test before. But he ultimately is not going to pass. But everyone's like following him. And he's a great guy, and he definitely wants, not just him, but anyone to succeed. That's desperately what he wants. And then there's the other guy who did succeed, who mistook him for someone bringing tea in.
Right.
And then he goes to that guy's house, and the guy says, okay. And he gives him a little test, and he's like, you cannot pass this. You will not be able to pass the second layer of the test, because you just can't. And so, it was a lot of great things. And this was a pretty contemporary romance, in a sense, for an Indian film, too. Because his romantic interest was independent woman, she was in Delhi on her own, away from the eyes of her family. And it's interesting, if you look at her, she was already on the path to become a doctor. But being a police, she's took it off to be like a high-ranking police officer. She gave up that path, and her family allowed her to do it. And she has kind of an independent romance, and it was troubling for, he was lying, She thought that he had previously was a aerodynamic, dynamic engineer, which would put him sort of like in a similar path to hers. That he already had an advanced degree, and he had a career lined up, and then he changed to do this, And although he wasn't deliberately lying,
well, he was lying by omission.
Yeah, he was lying by omission.
He just didn't correct it, right? But
which leads to a crisis.
Right.
It's one of those, I think Ebert called them idiot plots, where it would be, if people just told the truth for 1 second,
the movie's over, right?
Yeah, and but I thought it was a pretty cool contemporary Indian thing, in the sense that it was very sweet that the way, because they're not going to go run off having sex, in this movie, but they would just be holding hands, and how intently they were holding hands with each other and all. I just found that very sweet. And
well, she was his, without her, he doesn't do any of that. She let him off the hook by saying, "I'll marry you whether you're a police officer or the guy making the flower guy,"
which gave him the confidence to walk back in.
Right. And she asked him. She proposed to him.
Right. Yeah. When he went back into that room, it didn't matter what they were going to say, and he has a good point. It's like, I can become a teacher. Yeah. And there was that great scene where his friend who betrayed him, was in jail. And he gets him out of jail because he knows the law. He knows the law better than the cop does, and even makes the cop give back the guy's bribe he gave him. And we've certainly dealt with corrupt police movies before.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's got to be such a big theme in all these.
Every time I see that, I think, wait a minute, was this shot in Baltimore? I hate to say it. It goes to show it's a universal problem. But I loved how his friend.
But hold on. The difference is that in places like India and a lot of other countries, the bribe is just part of how it works. If nobody's hiding it, I mean, it is illegal, but that's how you get things done. In Baltimore City, you can have a corrupt police officer who knows that he's doing something wrong, and if he gets caught, he could get in trouble. It's built into transactions, but it's not as open.
Well, his friend was wide open.
Guy to go against that and to say, like, this is wrong, cheating is wrong, when he gets his friend out of jail and he just starts quoting things that it's plausible that he would, know those things because he's been studying 16 hours a day for 7 years or whatever. Yeah. And, that's a huge difference because it's not just, people got to stop cheating. It's people have to stop thinking that that's normal and okay. And that's not a barrier we have to jump over in some parts of the similar things in this country.
Well, that's why he stood out so much, because the school sanctioned the cheating.
Right.
Yeah. But my question is, why was he so taken by that one deputy that came in?
Well, because his father was on.
Because it was about his father, right? His father leaving, set up that whole, and he knows his father's super honest. I love that whole theme about the two shoes. No one's ever hit me with a shoe before. I haven't hit once. Well, here's the second time. Yeah, I mean, it's some of the stuff.
But it was all about the advice the cop gave him in the car. His advice was
no. I understand. It was surprising to me how quickly he,
Well, think about the stress he was under because
with that philosophy.
Until he got that cop, they were going to kill his brother.
Right.
They're like, if you're going to come here, you're going to bring a gun. Either you shoot me, or we're going to shoot him. So he desperately needed that.
Yeah,
cop.
they were all dead at that point.
I love that character, Dushyant Singh. I love that performance. That scene. When you start watching a movie, you're not quite sure how you feel about it, that sort of thing. And I was liking the performances, and it was very vivid and everything. But when when Manoj rushes past the guards and starts yelling for help, and the cop is basically like, we'll talk tomorrow. And then he says this thing that's extraordinary. This real danger that this cop is going to kill my brother. He comes downstairs. And he says, "Tell me everything." And that's what Manoj dreamed would happen. And it never happens, except it happened. So, of course, this man made a huge impact on his life. And I think the waiting to the end to see him again is fine. And it works for the movie. But I kind of just wanted to see more of him because his father was very inspirational, but not there. That's not wrong. His father was fighting on a different scale. But this policeman was there. He was in their lives, and he set this example. And I thought that was really powerful.
Well, and we forget the whole scene. The grandmother was such a big impact on him. Mm-hmm. With that whole scene at the beginning where she's ready to shoot the guy that came up to accuse the father, of whatever. They were going to bring him in, or they had some form for him. So,
suspend him, yeah.
Yeah. So, he was dealing with corruption all around him and honesty in his own family. His father and his grandmother all were very, very open. And then he meets this guy and, that propels the story. And propels, the whole next hour and a half. Right.
Puts him on that path.
I didn't realize how powerful the grandmother character was in the beginning until he got robbed.
Yeah.
Of what she gave him. And that was, that was like I felt it in my gut. Like, oh my God, I can't believe,
he'd been saving that. The family's been in trouble financially.
Right.
She saved it.
Right. But she saved everything and gave it to him, and he lost it to someone who seemed like she was a nice lady with a kid.
Right.
And that's, naive and sad and foolish, and what is he going to do? And that made the drama way more compelling, but it also was really sad, and that made me kind of get into the movie more, I think.
Yeah. Chris.
Well, there's one thing I just want to say about corruption being in the, and this is so embarrassing sometimes when you're an American, because if you're on like film production, even commercial production, and we're going to shoot abroad, we always get a fixer. Because if you're going to like a third world country to shoot, you always have to pay bribes. And you, as an American producer or something, you don't know who you're supposed to pay and how much. And what ends up happening if you don't have someone there, you're sitting at customs and they're just looking at paper. They're like, and they're expecting you to give them the bribe, and you don't know what to do. But you get a local fixer who comes in and just, you hand him a wad of money, and he just pays everybody what that they need to be paid, and you go through it. Technically speaking, that's illegal. In the United States, as a United States citizen, you're not allowed to pay bribes to foreign officials, and I guess they don't. That's why you have a local fixer to do it. But even in the commercial world, in those small projects, you find yourself in those kind of situations. I've heard stories about that. So it's an interesting thing, and I'm sorry they have such a corrupt system.
But it's part of
the.
I mean,
right, Baltimore's corrupt in a different way.
I know.
I think Drew's right. You see it in
wide
all these
open.
movies. It's just what
his friend was bragging about it. That his father
his
did
friend,
it. Now I'm going to do it.
I'm going to get 3 times the bribes. Well,
Right.
that's the thing. In America, we lie to ourselves that these things aren't happening, that we don't have castes and social classes and people excluded based on opportunities for education and based on money in their family, and that, you need to grease the wheels to do things. Like The Wire is full of things like that, not just in law enforcement, but it depicts this is how an American city runs. We just pretend that we're better than India or other countries where you have to bribe somebody to get everything done. And so to see it depicted this way, it was both, like a look into this different world, but also really familiar, and that's why I think he was so inspiring. That's why I loved seeing in the end credits the real guy, and his real wife, and the two of them with the 2 actors, and it was very sweet. It was a really nice.
It was a sweet love story that felt authentic to me as well.
Well, I wasn't sure about that at first, because at first it kind of reminded me of a movie that I hate. I don't know if you guys ever saw it. I've only saw it once. I hated it so much. The Pursuit of Happiness, that Will Smith movie. He basically sacrifices everything to become a stockbroker, and I'm supposed to be inspired by it, but I feel like I'm watching a guy literally endanger his son by, trying to keep people out of the bathroom in the subway station or whatever. And at the end, he achieves his goal, and his goal is to get money, which, you need money, and you need money to support your family. But this guy, his goal and his modeling his father and Dushyant Singh and everything it was genuinely more inspiring. And I connected with this movie a lot because of that.
Yeah. All right, Chris, jump in. Quick. Okay.
I didn't quite have the same reaction that everybody here.
Grumpy bear.
I found this movie to be really predictable, a little long. And even though I understand that it's based on a true story, and I get it, people from the country get robbed when they go to the big city. Unlike you, Drew, who that made you feel for this guy. I was like, really, we're gonna have him get robbed by the first person he talks to on the bus. It felt very. And like I said, I get it. It's a true story. It happened to the director. I know that it happens, but it felt a little like, oh, really? I've seen this part. I've seen this before. But the film was filled with great scenes, right? And I did really like a lot of the great scenes. Like one of the scenes I really liked was when he is in. He's passed the first level of testing, and so he goes to the lady who's going to help him get through the second one. And it's it reminds me of these. Well, I never took an SAT class. It reminds me of all those SAT classes.
Yeah, that was pretty.
E-books you were supposed to buy and take and do all this stuff, and it was going to help you get a better grade on the SAT, which would get you into a better college, which would give you a brighter future, and all of that kind of stuff, And while I can say, at least to a certain extent, it's not. We don't kind of have the same regimented intensity here in the United States with like those kinds of structures. We do have tests. We do have all of that stuff as well. So I did really enjoy that scene. I thought there was a lot of great scenes. I liked, the romance between him and her. I thought that was pretty good. His characterization kind of threw me a bit sometimes because sometimes he seemed like a very obviously super hardworking and smart. Like he would write, like sometimes when they'd show him writing his essays and he'd be thinking about what he's writing. It's obviously putting together really complex and intelligent thoughts on terrorism, maybe not tourism, but terrorism. And he knows his stuff. And then there are other times where he seemed to be, just like lost in the woods, like there was this, like he could not read. And don't get me wrong, I understand the difference between, say, knowledge and social intelligence. He had to seem to have very little social intelligence. Like he goes all the way up to, and granted his friend told him to do it, but like when he goes all the way up to her place from Delhi to apologize to her and she's not there and she talks to him on the phone, he seems so completely flabbergasted by that. Like that thought never crossed his mind.
It would never cross my mind either.
That it couldn't have worked out for him or whatever. And so there was like, I thought he's a great actor and I thought that was really great. However, I did feel like a lot of the scenes really dragged on. Like I felt like, and I also felt that the narration, like there would be times where, he was, something would not go his way and the narration would kick in and it would be like, he felt bad, but he wasn't going to give up. And I was like, I got it. I understand that. You don't have to tell me that. It's like I just didn't need that. But it's like for me, the movie was, but it was still a very good movie. I like the way that it was a much more grounded Hindi film. There was nothing, crazy or surreal or metaphysically crazy going on. There was no superheroes. There was no crazy action. It was just a really grounded story, and it was funny because it looked gorgeous too, of course. Like, I say that I'm almost stopped saying that with Indian films because they all look great. Even if it's, a movie that I find like boring or dumb or whatever, it usually still looks fantastic.
Well, he kept the camera moving a lot in this film.
Yeah.
The camera moved a lot.
But it just, just the way that that things were photographed. Like I loved when the guru, who was also my favorite part, right? When he opened up like his little corner tea shop / study hall, whatever you want to call it. Like I thought that was great. And you just kind of got the vibe of that life about, hey, he's going to restart. Like he kept saying, he's going to restart.
I like the restart idea too.
He's like, I'm going to restart, but I'm not going to be able to do this. So I'm going to do something else. But I'm still going to take what I've learned and I'm going to try to help some other people out. And hopefully they'll get through it. And there was some really nice moments too, like when there was that one guy talking in the tea shop about, hey, why are these guys even wasting our time? It's a waste of resources. He obviously came from an upper class kind of situation, and the guy kind of just goes off on him, So I like that because, it kind of brings in that social kind of inconsistent or imbalance, maybe is the best word. But all in all, I found it to be a little bit predictable, a little overlong, and but not bad. Like I didn't dislike it at all.
Your assessment is dead on. I mean, it's dead on, right? I mean, these always are too long and they're too sappy and all that. But again, because of what they did at the end and her reaction to him and his reaction to her, by that time, if I'm sticking with it, and I did, they got me at that point. And then, you said,
it's the payoff.
I know, and I'm expecting that. Of course, I'm expecting. There's no way he wasn't going to get it. I mean, I knew that.
Right, but it's a true story, so it's like, yeah. Okay.
Well, I didn't know that. I didn't obviously.
They're not
going to
make a movie about someone who failed.
But the thing is,
they did. It's called Rocky.
They've done that.
Exactly. That's why Rocky's amazing. That's why Rocky. Not only is Rocky great, but it also distinguishes itself because he doesn't win. I mean, he wins in his own way. He goes the distance.
He went the distance.
Nobody went the distance.
This guy went the distance too. Oh my God!
Yeah, he did.
So yeah.
But here's my thing. You guys talk about the ending scene when she's reading his name and everything, and I thought that was it was a good scene, But for me, it was the interview. That's where I got affected the most. When he goes back in there and he's like,
when he walked back in,
when he's like, I'll be a teacher. I may not be the sun, but I can be a lamp.
But he loosens his shirt. He removes his
Yeah,
shoes because they were tight.
Yeah, he puts his heel. He takes his heels out.
Well,
of
at
the
that
shoe.
point, he had nothing to lose. That's what he
That's right.
felt, and you know,
Right.
because
And
his
he's already
girlfriend
won
said,
because he got the girl.
"That's right." The girlfriend said, "No matter what, I want to marry you. I am asking you to get married." So he already won that portion. And you knew they were gonna. I like the way the mechanism they used to do that, where they showed it after the fact. I mean, it was a nice way to pull that
they
one
flash
off.
back to it.
Yeah, and the one guy who never said anything in that meeting is the one who finally basically said, "Yeah, this is the kind of policeman we want in our country, and you're going to throw this guy out because you didn't like where he came from. You know, who's being ridiculous here?"
Yeah,
so,
literally the whole point. Yeah,
right. Yeah. So it's a good message.
By the way,
it reminded me of another story. In this, Chris, you probably read this, and if not, it's right up your alley. But it reminded me of Thomas Hardy's Jude the Obscure, which was also made into a movie with Christopher Eccleston and Kate Winslet, and that's about set in Wessex in Victorian England. That all of Hardy's novels are set in Wessex, and it's about a guy named Jude, and he is poor. And he teaches himself classical languages while he works in his aunt's bakery. And his dream is, I want to go to Christminster, which is basically a fictional version of Oxford. He's not from any place that lets him go to get that kind of education. So he's a stonemason who's working and studying all the things he would study and trying to get into the school. And this movie is Jude the Obscure with a happy ending, because Jude the Obscure has such a tragic ending that when I first read it in high school, I hated it because I hated him for being so naive to be taken advantage of by religion and the people and these women in his life, as well as to think that he could get into these places. But the way that this story works is something that we don't have as much of a relation to, which is if you can pass the test, you can get through the door. And I mean, they said what, like 30,000 people apply and 10 of them get picked or something, but you could be one of those 10 people.
Sound like when I was in
that
Amway.
apparently is very real. And so that reminded me of Jude the Obscure with a happy ending, which is a weird thing to connect to it, to feel that way. But that's kind of what it felt like, because he made the leap. He did it. And he did it in a way that's inspiring. But the fact is, if 30,000 people apply, 29,990 of them are going to go back to their lives.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, by the way, hashtag restart became a big cultural thing in India when that film came out.
Yeah, that was
big.
neat.
Wow.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can definitely see how this, movie connects and impacts with people. And I will say this. It had some of the best shoe slapping ever put on film.
Oh man, that stuff
absolutely.
And I did like the shtick with
Give
the
it up
woman.
for that.
You're talking about the woman with the school who kept saying celebrities don't smoke what they eat or drink, whatever. And then she comes back for the callback at the end to be slapped down again. There's some nice moments. Was this the guy that directed Three Idiots? You mentioned Three Idiots.
I think he wrote
the same
Three
writer,
Idiots.
right?
He wrote it.
He wrote
the same
it.
writer.
Yeah. Very
Well, the other
interesting
thing
guy
is,
too.
for this movie, I really liked that his last attempt, which is, when you're getting into the Rocky territory, whichever way it goes, it doesn't become a story of him doing it by himself.
Right.
He only does it because other people help him.
Everybody
other people
helped
say,
him.
get out of the flour mill, get into this opportunity. You can do this. They love him as who he is. And if he wins this fight, that victory represents a lot for people. And they say this explicitly. Gowrie, the guru, tea shop owner, tells him, like, you're not just doing it for yourself. And then they put their money where their mouth is, and they support him. And I liked that it wasn't, one guy against the system. It was one guy genuinely gets love and support, and then he can do what he's capable of doing. And I thought that was really kind of beautiful, actually.
Yeah, no, I mean, I tend to agree with Chris, just overall tonally about the film. But again, they got me at the end. When I see people do that, when she starts crying, and he's going to get it, but it doesn't matter, and then he drops to his knees. So just by
the way, that little song she did when they were eating lunch, they recorded that live. They didn't pre-record it.
चलिए.
Okay. ये पतंगे अंबर
And she's actually
that's
really
her
good.
singing.
Yeah, and she's actually a really good singer.
live. I mean, she did it live,
He
right?
had to rein it back a little bit to not sound so polished. He didn't want it to sound polished. But yeah, they did it live. It was not pre-recorded.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's
She
awesome.
really didn't look like his real wife, though. I mean, neither one.
Well, but I mean, you know that.
Well, it's a movie.
It's
I
a
know, I'm
movie.
just saying. But fun,
Like, have
fun.
you ever seen the real teacher that Michelle Pfeiffer portrays in Dangerous
Yeah,
Mountains?
good example. Yeah.
Not
quite,
really.
not quite there.
Yeah.
But
Or
not,
Tom
not,
Cruise
not
as
to
Jack
take
Reacher.
not to take away from their relationship, because she had to have been, you know, if she must have been an amazing human being to get him through.
Well, Drew brings up a great point, and that's what made that his final journey of doing the studying. When they said, "Look, you just work on this. We'll worry about everything else." That
Well,
was
it
just
gets
powerful.
back to that. If you get in, we get in. It's that
Right.
whole idea that
Right.
because we all helped you, we're all part of you.
Right.
Even his friend who, you know, betrayed him by saying that they slept together and screwed up that whole,
Yeah,
tried
but
to.
here, let's look at this. He did that. He did screw up the relationship, but did he do it out of evil and spite, or did he really honestly? He felt that the girlfriend was distracting him from succeeding.
Well,
That's
he
a
was
very generous reading. Of
Yeah,
his
he was
spiteful
an-
act.
he was-
that because he was.
I
mad.
can't figure out that guy, because he was so rude to the woman who he was with, supposedly, that girlfriend that ended up leaving him because he was such a dick. So he was that's what I mean. It was an odd congruity of him being this awful
Well,
character.
he was also
and,
getting very jealous of that.
well,
Yeah,
but I
he
mean,
was
but the
drunk and
narration,
insecure
the
and all that
narration is
stuff.
completely the opposite of that. The
Well,
narration,
because in the
Well,
end,
because it has
they
wisdom.
worked it out.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
wisdom, but it's just it
I mean,
took
he
away.
sounds like an old man. That's why it wasn't really clear that he was Pandey. Because, you know, it's like this movie takes place in like 97 or something. And so now it's, you know, 25, 30 years later, you know, and I'm an older guy and I'm talking about, you know, who's clearly still my friend and an important person in my life. Like, you could tell me that they made a sequel about where these guys went with their careers, and I'd say, I'm curious to hear that story. It's not as Rocky compelling, but I'd be curious about it. They're real people.
I'm just always amazed about just how many people are in these cities, just how crowded they
Oh,
are,
yeah.
and what they have to do.
That's pretty amazing.
Wow. I mean, it's just like amazing. All right. Well, John, you
Can I say
go-
one more thing?
Sure, of course.
So this movie, you know, we live in a country where it's been, I don't even know, almost 45 years of, you know, a huge public message, people winning elections, raising money, all these kinds of things, saying that, you know, government is bad and government is a waste of money and all these other things. And I think government is those things if you don't, you know, run it right, if you don't put the right people in it. And this is a movie about not just him, but people who think that civil service is a real thing that's worth doing, that it's worth, you know, doing the right thing to serve people in your country. And I'm a civil servant. I work for the state of Maryland. I process disability claims. I'm serving the citizens of the state of Maryland, and I take that responsibility very seriously. And I saw, and I want to do it right, and I want to do it right by them. Even though, would I like to get paid more, and, you know, would I like to have more this or more that? Sure. But I'm doing work that needs to be done for people that I serve. And this guy brought that from his father and from Dushyant Singh, and
His grandmother.
His grandmother, said,
His mother.
This is
I mean,
a worthwhile way to live.
Yeah.
And I take that responsibility very seriously, and I really related to him feeling that way. And I really liked that I related to him in spite of the fact that he lives literally on the other side of the world, and that it comes from a different place, from a different world, and yet he thinks, you know, there's important work that you can do, and you can do it right, and it matters. And I really found myself feeling that at the end of the movie. I was excited
also,
for him.
that
for
actor's
that
actor's face.
he's
a
wonderful.
Lot,
Yeah.
Shows a lot of empathy and emotion. I mean, you think about the scenes where he's screaming at that guy to help his brother, and the lighter scenes, or the scenes where he's just learning things and people are talking to him. That kid, and that death in Gunji too. There was a lot going on in his face that was, you know, that ultimately is his.
But no common sense. No common sense at all. Right, Chris?
Yeah.
No,
in
he
some ways.
didn't. I mean,
He's a country
In
mouse.
some ways,
Come
he
on.
seems like
He was out of his element
child
from his little village.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, I get that, but he also, toward the end, I mean, he'd been there for years. It's like you figured he'd wise up a little bit.
But he wasn't really. But he wasn't
Didn't
really
work for
living.
me.
He was studying. He was living
Yeah.
and
Yeah, he
working
was-
in a library so he could have access to the books. He was not out, having dinner. I mean, it's like Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman. For some reason, is basically feral. She doesn't know how to use a fork, stuff like that. Like at least they didn't go to that point with this guy.
No,
But he's
yeah.
not. He's not experiencing
He's not a
life
whore.
in Delhi.
He's not a whore.
Well, but he's
Well,
not living life in
some
Delhi.
ways.
He's not becoming a criminal.
In
He's
some ways.
there for a. He's there for a purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he devoted himself to that. So I'm not surprised that he learned a lot of things, but didn't necessarily become more sophisticated. Because if he had walked into that last interview and given off something other than what he gave off, which is that's who he really is, I don't think that it would have connected with the other four people in the room.
And you remember, look, they set us up too, because they had that old guy say to him, "Tell them your grandmother died."
Right.
So the whole movie is reinforcing that this guy, and the only lie he made, and like John said, it was the lie of omission, not commission, was about the book that he was holding when she met him in the library. He didn't lie through this whole film. He told the truth even when it wouldn't help him, especially with the ad agency, or the school where he found the picture that was wrong, and he made that whole bit, which is where he met the woman he ends up going to marry. So we have that forced down our throats that, okay, this old guy's saying, tell him your grandmother, to use your grandmother too, which was very important to him.
Yeah.
That, and this guy's just flippantly saying, just tell him your grandmother died, you'll be fine.
Another test.
Another test that you knew he was going to pass. There's no way he wasn't going to hold true to what we've been watching him do the whole movie. But it doesn't matter.
You seem hung up on the fact that the movie acted like a movie and gave us a happy ending. Like,
No,
and the fact
I'm not.
That it's true. Is
I
nice,
think it would have
but
been happy if he had this self knowledge and didn't pass it. Like,
Well,
you know,
the whole
Rocky
point was,
ending.
yes, that they set it up that he could have failed, but he'd still have the love of this woman. He could be a teacher. He could build his life. It's more exciting to think of him winning and then becoming maybe some kind of political leader or something like that.
Well, we
that's what they
expect-
said to him, go into politics. And they were joking, but he could do that too.
Yeah, but you're right. It is a movie, so we were expecting the happy ending, which is
Yeah, that's okay.
when it happens, I say, "Oh my God, I can't believe I fell for it again." Where if they
I'm
had
just
just
sorry you feel like you fell for it. Like that's the way that these stories are told. They're not trying to trick you. They're trying to grab your heart. And like when you watch Titanic, they all die, but
Yeah,
you
but
can still
but if
be taken into it.
But if we're being completely honest, then things like this don't really happen. The romantic movies don't really happen. I'm not trying to be a cynic here. I'm just saying.
No, but you kind of are. It's like, okay, that's fine, but this.
I
really-
cry
what
at
about
every
you?
listen.
You're a
Romantic
happy ending.
romantic comedies always get me. Always.
But this,
heard
I
you,
mean,
Sean.
I could say that if it was a completely made up thing, then I would agree with you. But
What did
this
Sean
is what
say?
happened.
He always
I said,
says
Ralph, you have a happy ending in your romantic life.
I do. No, I do. And remember, Maria asked me to get married. So when he did that, and when she
Oh, you
did that
think
in the
that's
film,
what Sean was referring to just then?
what do you
Yeah.
think he was
I had a
referring to?
different thought.
Yeah, me too.
No.
Well, because he said
About-
happy
No, no.
ending. You pigs.
No. Oh yeah.
What's that? Is that the Ralph story? You think it's 4 weddings and a hand job? Come on, Sean. Have some
Yeah,
respect.
what the hell, John and Chris?
man.
I don't get it. Wait,
well,
Sean,
that's-
were you being
Wait.
sarcastic?
No, I'm serious, Ralph.
Yeah, that's what I
There
thought.
you
I
go.
took it that way.
He was
That's-
being genuine. It's
Yeah.
just
I
it's
thought-
coming from Sean. So the
Wow.
track record leads
Sean can
me
This is
forgive
like-
us,
yeah.
for
What are we
for
watching a
respecting that.
movie? You
This is
expect
like
him to
telling
act a certain
telling
way?
your grandmother died. That's what that shit was. Oh, I told him that sincerely.
Well, you know what I kept thinking about. There's that joke that goes where some guy comes home from the army and he wants to, they don't want to tell him the grandmother died, but they do this whole other thing. The cat fell off the roof, and then the cat. Well, that's what I felt like when he came home. They were going to go, well, the cat was on the roof, and then he fell off the roof, and the grandmother was on the roof, and she fell. But this was more serious than that. So that's what I was thinking about.
You really killed that joke.
When
Yeah.
grandma,
Would
I
you
don't,
like to,
I don't
would
know.
you like to tell? Would you like to tell the aristocrats next? Go for
No,
it.
I'm good. I'm good.
Not the
So,
joke,
all right.
it's how
So,
you tell it.
John, in your review, your 10-minute, 17-ish
But
minute
can I just
review-
say one thing?
Oh my God! Yes.
I just want to say, I know the 5 guys in this podcast. Haven't we all had that happy romantic ending?
Are we talking about happy endings again? Or are we talking about
Yeah,
romantic
that's what I'm
happy endings?
saying. Haven't we all? Come on, let's be honest.
I mean, have we found partners that are
I'm not
wonderful
sure
to
how
share
to
our lives
explain
with? Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
that's
Very
Oh,
fortunate.
yeah.
Yeah.
Some of
Oh,
us
that
have
was
actually. Some of
that
us
was-
have found it 4 different times.
That was a
Yeah,
tight. That was a tightrope you were walking.
Yeah.
right then. Oh my God! All right.
Actually, 5.
Okay.
5.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you. Yes, we all have very happy
Yeah,
relationships.
exactly.
So
It's real. It can happen.
yeah. All right, John. So in your 10ish minute review, you gave this 5 Ledoux, right?
Yeah, I loved it.
Okay, Sean. What is your?
I can't go that. I'll go 4 though. I really did. I really enjoyed this film, and Debbie didn't watch it, but because it's hard for us both to watch something at the same time this long. But I think Debbie would have really enjoyed it too.
Okay, well, you can't say that, so don't do that.
Well, people
Don't
may
speak.
wonder.
Don't
about
speak for
Auntie.
Debbie. Drew.
I would give it 4 Ledoux. That's a high praise for me. And we've had a nice little streak of we watched Death in the Guns, then Kahani, now this. We've got a good streak going.
yeah,
Two of them are Vikrant Massey movies, but I like it. Not that everything
going
before
well.
was garbage, but this has been a nice, I really like this one. I really like this
I
one.
wonder if that's because we're only watching him every couple of weeks. We spread these out pretty good. Maybe
I don't think that has no contribution to it. That's fine.
I'm just throwing that out there. Chris.
I'm going to go with 3. I mean, it was a kid movie. It just, like I said, a little long, a little predictable.
Yeah, I was gonna rate a little higher, but Chris kind of took me. I'm gonna go 3 3/4 Ledoux. I was gonna go 4, but he was right. It was. In my notes, I wrote overly sappy, but I got it anyway. I mean, it got me anyway. So I mean, I was feeling that way throughout the film. So anyway,
maybe Chris will do you a solid and bring Jude the Obscure.
Yes.
Why don't you think we read that? I might have read that book.
I said I didn't know if you read it.
I will say.
Well, no. What you said is Chris. I know you probably read this one.
I read
because I was talking to Chris about his feeling about the darkness of the story.
I read
you
the graphic
heard it.
novel.
You heard it as I don't think you read.
What's Chris always read?
I only would think because you say things like I don't read. It's not a value judgment.
Yeah, this is
I'm
true.
not a reader. I'm not a reader. I'm a breeder.
That's fine.
Ralph,
You do well
readers
on
are
the
readers.
He liked to read.
UPSC exam. That's fine.
Are there pictures in the book?
All right, good job. That's actually a good film. 3 3/4 is a pretty
Glad
good.
you
review.
guys liked it.
Yeah, thank you, John. That was a good choice.
So, John, explain to me. I just want a real quick little sideline here. Your reviews are actually recaps.
Well, I'm trying to do less of that to shorten them, but it's just the way I did them. Because there are things within the movie that I want to talk about, so you kind of have to.
But do you get any pushback that you're giving away films?
A little bit sometimes, but very rarely.
Okay.
Very rarely. So I'm only trying to do it to shorten them a little bit, and it's hard because I like talking about the whole film.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah.
It's obvious. Yeah. All right. So let's. I will go to the wheel for the next 4. Now, remind me again where these 4 came from. Was this a list that you collated? I forget the.
Yeah. So what I did was I looked at all the films I've done a 10ish minute review on.
Okay. So
where
these
people have said everybody should watch.
Okay.
And I also kind of went with what I think you guys would like because my taste is a little different than your guys, right? But I still thought, okay, I think this would resonate with everybody. Okay. That's what I picked.
Okay. Excellent. All right. So
I
let's
don't know
go.
if I'm going to be right, but
well, we'll find out.
1 for 1, I guess.
Well, you're off to a good start.
Yeah, that's.
All right. Wow. So it's more than 4. It's actually 5 up there.
It's 5. Yeah.
This is one we talked about percentages a little funky because they came from different lists, right?
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
From 2 different lists.
Yeah. All right.
I'm
so,
not even sure why you
John,
put them
any
on there.
predictions?
It's
You've
too
been
confusing
so
for me.
far so good.
I would love you guys to see Barf.
Oh, a little pause. What is going on? Look, God,
Good job, John.
this is insanity. All right, this is crazy. You predicted the last.
Now, John, this is about the John.
It's
John
almost
Candy
like
character in Spaceballs.
Bartholomew.
Okay.
This is almost like I'm doing it on purpose.
Are you?
I'm not.
Are you rigging this?
I am not rigging this at all. No way. That's all legit.
Because we're all about
Ralph.
honesty.
That is legit.
Do not
all right.
cheat.
So, a couple of weeks we do Barfi. Barfi, is that how you pronounce that?
Barfi. Barfi.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if I just watch your review recap, can I skip it? Or
Well,
do I
you've
have to
already
watch
watched the review, Ralph, because you commented on it. But I would
Oh, I
say
did?
Priyanka Chopra's in it, and the lead actor. I think it's. I get the actors confused. I think it's Raveen Kapoor. I think it is.
Just because somebody comments doesn't mean they watched it, remember?
No, he watched it because he told me
Okay.
specifics about it.
And
Does
it's
it have
on
anything
Netflix.
to do with regurgitation or
No. Actually,
That would be Ralphie.
No, you know what? I was going to give you a heads up, but I think I'd rather have you discover, because when I first saw the movie, I didn't know anything about it. A lot of people recommended it, and then after I watched it, I'll give you an example. I did Cholet, which is a 1970s movie. John. Well, it ended up being a tribute to Once Upon a Time in the West. I had no idea about that. Like, almost
we should see that one.
Like shot for shot. So this movie does something similar to that. That when I'm watching it, I'm going, I can't believe what they're doing in this film, because no one mentioned it when they told me to watch it, and I was like, wow, it was great. I loved it. Another one I loved.
Well, I know it's not the Indian Forrest Gump, because that's something else.
I actually, did anybody see that?
No. I watched the beginning of it. It wasn't.
It was not that bad. It really wasn't that bad.
Okay. Well, did you review that one?
I did.
Oh, we'll have to watch
it. And I didn't understand the hate for it.
Well, I didn't even like Forrest Gump, so.
Right. You didn't like
did
Forrest
or did
Gump?
not?
No, I didn't like it.
No, that doesn't surprise me, because it's very sappy.
That's one I loved when I saw it, and I hate that movie now. I hate it.
Funny, I was about to say a lot of the hate for that movie is retro.
Yeah, it's retro. Yeah, it is definitely.
Because no one hated it when it first came out.
No, that's why. Maybe that's why.
No, I didn't care.
I was not a huge.
I found it bewildering.
Not the majority loved it.
Yeah.
No, I'll tell you a film that everyone hated.
The important people, the people who
it won Best Picture, like Crash. So
No, wait a minute. It also did huge box office.
Unlike Crash,
it wasn't just because it won an Oscar.
It was right that Tom Hanks.
See it.
That was Tom Hanks at his.
That's his.
Robert Zemeckis used to make movies that people went to. That is.
Well, that's true.
That's true.
That is true.
All right. So, but next week, John and I might be together in our little square or double square. I don't know. He's going to be in Virginia next week, so we might be broadcasting from Dulles Airport. We're trying to work.
Well,
that one
not
out.
Dulles Airport. I mean, near.
I understand, but I think
we won't literally be at the airport.
I have to bring out a portable audio package to make it all work. So
sweet.
Nice.
So I don't have to bring any.
I can't wait to see your package.
Take that on that hour-long Silver
Did you
Line Metro.
Did you hear what Sean just said to you, Ralph?
What?
Okay, Mr. Sincerity.
What did he say?
I said I can't wait to see his package.
Okay. So
no wonder they thought you were giving me.
Sean, why didn't you say, "Oh, Ralph, are you going for an in-call at a hotel near the airport?" I mean, then maybe that would have been more your line.
Appropriate.
I am trying to get John to take me out that night, and I'll stay at the hotel. But he's got things he might have to do, so we'll see. I'll hang out with your clients.
I'll let my potential client know.
Your clients love me. Oh, they'll love me.
My brother.
I'll bring some pictures. We'll talk about some stuff. They're gonna love me. You know that. All right. So next week we're doing Yippee-Ki-Yay, Mother Podcast, but suggestions from our Indian audience. And the film we're doing next week is Train to Busan.
That's right.
Yes.
Yep. So that's going to be pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
And Indian Cine-Maniacs, just so you guys.
I must say, I said that, and I must say that they are commenting. We got some comments on the last Yippee-Ki-Yay.
We did,
and that felt pretty good. That we're getting some engagement there. So slowly this might catch.
The views are about the same, but the comments.
Yeah.
Remember,
and I know we must be getting popular because we just got. Like I said, I know we must be getting popular because we just got a copyright hit on a show we did 2 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, for the Soylent Green show.
Oh,
we cannot monetize that one.
What would have got hit? Does it tell you?
I put videos in there. I didn't look exactly what they were questioning, but it could be just the quote at the end. Soylent Greenish people, maybe. But yeah, 2 years ago,
best Saturday Night Live sketch ever.
Yeah, we did that 2 years ago.
Soylent Green's paper. It's
things
paper.
are going. All right, so next week, Train to Busan. Following week, another Indian Cine-Maniac requested film,
right?
And then we do Barfy in 2 weeks,
right?
2 weeks from today. So you guys all have a good week. Next week, John and I might be in the same square. Not sure how it's going to work, but we'll see.
Sounds good.
All right. Have a good
week. Maybe a rectangle.
See you guys.
Have a good week, everyone.